my first week at Haynes and Boone, discovered that they were on the cusp of filing a school finance lawsuit in Dallas. And coincidentally, I had written in law school a lengthy paper on the history of Texas school finance litigation that had gotten published by the Yale Law and Policy Review. And the folks in Dallas and Haynes and Boone that were getting ready to file this lawsuit had used that paper to prepare the lawsuit and figure out what claims they wanted to assert. And so somebody in Dallas that first week figured out that I was the same Mark Trachtenberg that had written the paper. And the next thing I know, I get a call from George Bramblett, who, if there was a third name in Haynes and Boone, it would be his, asking me to join the school finance team. And by join, he meant really running point on this lawsuit. I was still a very baby lawyer, but it, really took off from there. And that was the beginning of my involvement in the West Orange Cove school finance case, which went up to the Supreme Court twice and culminated in a victory in 2005. And so it was a really a great coincidence that I joined Haynes and Boone at the time this case was about to take off.
That's cool. I mean, that's one that I think we all know about. And then they had another round more recently, of all that too.
Yeah, that's right. I was lead counsel for a group of school districts the second time around. We were, I think, hired in 2010, 2011. That was a 16 weeks of trial in Austin, and then up to the Texas Supreme Court again. More disappointing result than in that case, but very fulfilling to be able to be involved in something that is an issue that is so important to the future of Texas.
Absolutely.
That 2005 case, was that tried here in Austin as well? Is that the one that went before Judge Dietz?
It is. It was before Judge Dietz. Actually, both cases were before Judge Dietz, and Judge Dietz had his famous Godzillas that he kept on his bench, that he would break out whenever an attorney angered him. And my very first speaking role at a case was before Judge Dietz. I was making a presentation in West Orange Cove on Texas's high school graduation rates. And in the middle of the presentation, he stopped me and said, "Trachtenberg, you know what the Mendoza line is?" And all the attorneys looked around, wondering what he was talking about. Me being the avid baseball fan, I knew that at least the only Mendoza line I had ever heard of was named after Mario Mendoza, famous ball player in the 1970s who could barely hit 200. And so I told the judge that's what I answered the question that I thought it was a baseball reference and got the reference right, much to the amazement of George Bramblett and the rest of the lawyers in the room. And so that was my very first oral argument question from a judge. And fortunately, my baseball expertise came in handy there.
Wow.
But Judge Dietz's point was that the equivalent of the Mendoza line for states is the Mississippi line. And so if a state is doing worse than Mississippi, the equivalent of a baseball player doing worse than hitting worse than the Mendoza line. And so I think the graduation rate statistic that I had mentioned to him, we fell below Mississippi. So that was Judge Dietz's very colorful way of making that point.
Wow.
I grew up in Orange, Texas. West Orange was our rival high school. So I was very familiar when all that was going on. I remember it well.
What a great experience for a younger lawyer, though, to not only write the law review article that, gives you the roadmap, I suppose, to be followed in the litigation, but then to stand up and the first time you speak in court, have a question that I'm sure I would have fumbled that one badly.
Yeah.
And in front of Mr. Bramblett, no less. So I think it's probably safe to say your career at Haynes and Boone was taking off at that point.
Yeah, I think that's when I knew I was good in Bramblett's book, that I could answer kind of a random question from Judge Dietz and do okay and impress the judge.
Well, and he was no easy one to please. He still sits as a visiting judge here in Austin from time to time. And yeah, the Godzillas are famous. I remember when he retired, the disposition of the Godzillas was, they were kind of a hot item, I think.
Make some money on eBay.